Today, if your milk goes bad, you throw it away without a second thought. You open a fridge, and cold air keeps everything safe for days, sometimes weeks. But for almost all of human history, that machine did not exist. So how did people keep meat from rotting in the middle of summer? How did families survive winter without a single fresh vegetable in sight? And how did entire civilizations manage to store enough food to survive a season, a war, or a famine? The answer is more clever, more surprising, and more demanding than most of us imagine. Before refrigeration, food was not just something people ate, it was something people fought to protect. Picture a small home at first light. The fire has burned down to soft gray ash. Outside, the air still carries the coolness of night, but it won't last long. A woman steps towards the place where yesterday's meat has been hanging since sunset. She leans in. She smells it before she even touches it. If the scent is wrong, even slightly, the day changes completely. Less food for the children, less strength for the work ahead, perhaps hunger, if nothing else can be found in time. This was not a rare moment. It happened in kitchens and courtyards across the world, again and again, for thousands of years. Long before anyone understood bacteria, people understood fear. The quiet, constant fear that the food they depended on could disappear overnight. And unlike today, there was no backup plan. If the food supply failed, there was no store down the street to fix it. So people had to become experts in something we rarely think about now, the art of preservation. This wasn't a hobby, it was survival. Let's start with salt. Long before science explained why, people understood that salt did something powerful to meat and fish. It kept them from rotting. Imagine coarse grains of salt, rough against the fingers, packed thickly over dark red meat until it disappeared beneath a pale, crystalline layer. The salt pulled moisture out, slowly, quietly, taking away the one thing spoilage needed most to survive. Fish, especially in coastal communities, were preserved this way in massive quantities, filling barrels that lined entire harbors. But perhaps the most surprising discovery is this. In some regions, salt became so valuable that it shaped trade routes, taxation systems, and even wars. People weren't just seasoning their food, they were protecting their survival with something almost as precious as gold. Yet salt wasn't their only weapon. There was also smoke. Step for a moment into a small wooden smokehouse tucked behind a rural home. The air inside is warm and heavy, filled with the low, constant scent of burning wood. Thin ribbons of smoke curl upward, drifting past strips of meat hanging silently from wooden beams above. The fire is never allowed to roar. It stays slow, patient, controlled for hours, sometimes days. The smoke did more than add flavor. It formed an invisible shield, drying the meat from within while coating it with something that decay could not easily penetrate. Smokehouses became common fixtures of daily life, and for many families, the smell of smoke was simply the smell of security. What came next changed everything for entire regions with strong, steady sunlight. Drying. Picture rows of fish laid out along wooden racks, swaying gently as the wind moves through them. Herbs bundled and hung from ceiling beams, filling the room with a faint, earthy fragrance. Fruit slices spread across cloth in the sun, shrinking and darkening as the hours pass. Remove the moisture, and you remove the environment decay depends on. It was simple, it was patient, and it worked almost anywhere the sun cooperated. But in colder regions, nature itself became an ally. People built ice houses, thick-walled structures dug partly into the earth, packed with blocks of ice cut from frozen lakes in the depths of winter. Layers of straw and sawdust wrapped around the ice like a blanket, slowing the warmth of spring and summer just long enough to matter. Here is the truly surprising part. In some of these ice houses, blocks of winter ice survived cold and solid deep into the following summer, sometimes even into autumn. An entire season of cold, borrowed and stored simply through careful design and hard, disciplined labor. And then there was fermentation, perhaps the most surprising method of all. Cabbage transformed slowly into sharp, tangy sauerkraut. Milk thickened into cheese and yogurt. Grapes darkened into wine. In every case, people were partnering with invisible, living organisms they could not see, could not name, and did not understand. They simply knew, through generations of careful observation, that something remarkable happened when they left certain foods alone in the right conditions. That knowledge, passed quietly from parent to child, was its own kind of science, built centuries before anyone had a microscope to prove it. But none of this came easily. Every method had limits. Every household faced real danger. Salt was expensive in many regions, sometimes taxed so heavily that poorer families could never gather enough of it. Ice houses demanded enormous physical labor and only worked where winters were cold enough to freeze water in the first place. And spoilage was not always obvious. Meat could look normal, smell only faintly wrong, and still carry the early signs of decay. Families sometimes ate what looked safe, only to become seriously ill afterward. Winter was especially unforgiving. Picture a mother in late January, standing before a nearly empty cellar, quietly counting what remains: salted meat, a few jars of pickled vegetables, some dried grain. She does the math in her head. Will it be enough until the first green shoots of spring appear? If preserved food ran out too early, there was no emergency solution. Only waiting, only rationing, only hoping the season would turn before hunger did. It's easy to forget just how thin the line was between having enough and having nothing at all. And yet, people adapted. They always did. Autumn became a season of urgent, focused preparation, and entire communities moved with a single shared purpose. Meat was slaughtered and salted. Vegetables were pickled in large ceramic jars. Grain was stored in dry, elevated containers meant to keep rodents and moisture away. Neighbors worked side by side because preserving enough food for winter required more hands than any single family could provide. Now, imagine walking down a set of worn wooden steps into a root cellar. The air changes almost instantly. It grows cooler, it grows quieter. Sunlight fades behind you, replaced by a still, earthy darkness. Shelves lined with root vegetables stretch along the walls, undisturbed for weeks at a time. Sealed jars sit in careful rows, holding food that must last until spring. This space was more than storage. It was insurance. It was the difference between a family that survived winter and one that did not. Perhaps the most remarkable part of all this is not any single technique. It's the sheer intelligence behind the entire system. These were not people guessing blindly, relying on luck alone. They were careful observers, testing methods across seasons, remembering what worked, discarding what failed, and passing that hard-earned wisdom down through generations. They built reliable systems of survival, using nothing but patience, attention, and shared experience. What feels inconvenient to us today was simply the price of survival for them. The people of the past were not less intelligent than we are. They simply solved enormous problems using only the tools their world provided. And in many ways, their solutions still shape how we eat today. That smoked bacon on your plate, that jar of pickles in your kitchen, that block of aged cheese you enjoy without a second thought, each one is a direct descendant of a survival strategy refined over thousands of years by people who had no refrigerator, no science lab, and no safety net. So here's a question worth sitting with. If you had lived in a world without refrigeration, do you think you could have kept your family fed through an entire winter? Which method do you think would have surprised you the most? The salt, the smoke, or the fermentation? And could you survive even 1 week relying only on the food preservation methods people trusted for thousands of years? Every time a refrigerator door quietly closes today, it seals away centuries of struggle, effort, and hard-earned knowledge so completely that we barely notice it at all. Let us know what you think, and if you enjoyed traveling back in time with us today, stay close because history has many more stories like this one still waiting to be told.